Welcome back to the Smugsy Show for the latest on all things Barstool and Kirk Minihane. So much for a vacation. We saw Kirk come back again, kind of zombie-like, while on vacation. Kind of this somewhat disturbing video of unkempt, unshaven, in like a kind of a dingy white t-shirt, stumble around, kind of mumbling into a video, basically that he was delighted that Dave Portnoy has been, caught up in this whole racism thing. Yeah, it really made Kirk's day to have Dave accused of racism, because it kind of gave Kirk, an opportunity to just jump on the big guy's back and hopefully make his way out of this kind of hole that Kirk's found himself in. I mean, it's been kind of a sinking ship. I mean, it's like rats leaving. But Kirk is hopeful that his backing Dave against charges of racism will, enamor Kirk to Dave. And, we're trying to look at the lighter side of things here, right? I mean, this is a place to escape the reality, so it is kind of funny to think about Dave, how his mind works, like of all people you want, jumping to your defense when you're, in his mind, falsely accused of being kind of insensitive and racist, is probably Kirk Minihane. So it's kind of an unhappy alliance, perhaps, but nonetheless, Kirk did come to Dave's defense. And Kirk's argument is that, look, Dave, let's go back to the way Barstool used to be. Remember when, white guys like us could be considered brave for saying offensive things? That's what Barstool is supposed to stand for, isn't it, Dave? This is me imitating Kirk, of course. I'm doing a little bit better job articulating it, but you get the gist. Kirk has a point. I mean, there has been changes at Barstool, and he doesn't like it. These people like Willie and Black Brandon and Liz. I mean, according to Kirk, it's like the poison. Like, who let the poison in? Once you let the poison in, we have to talk about these sensitive issues like racism. Why can't we just, push the boundaries? So, like we used to, Dave. Remember when we used to push the boundaries? That's what Barstool's, essence is. But of course, Kirk doesn't want to push boundaries. He just wants to ignore the boundaries of others, and that's the privilege. So that's the nuanced white supremacy that others can see, that Kirk can't, and that Dave probably can but isn't ready to admit it yet, is that it's not about pushing boundaries for Kirk Minihane. It's about ignoring and disrespecting boundaries set by others, and at the same time sort of insisting or expecting, feeling entitled to have your own little snowflake fucking boundaries. Like Kirk makes synonymous Bob Murchison trying to shut him up with, I don't know, police brutality, getting killed by the cops, being separated from your children. In Kirk's view, he's, he can't see that what he's referring to is just kind of exaggerated demons. It's just dick swinging, he got in a fight with a guy over a radio station, his job at a radio show. That was the big, he, in his mind, he can't see that and we're not supposed to talk about it, like Bob Murchison, like, shh, it's like Baltimore, don't say it because Kirk might have a breakdown. He can't take it, So that's the kind of privilege that he doesn't see. And Dave, unfortunately, doesn't really see it either. because when Dave, for instance, discussed that Colin Kaepernick, when he first saw the video of Colin Kaepernick protesting at an NFL game, his immediate thought was, oh, he's a terrorist, because he thought he was an Arab. He thought he was an Arabic person. Okay, now, and then Kirk said, yeah, see, now if you didn't think that, you're just not being honest. But I guess what's funny, or the hypocrisy, as Kirk likes to point out, is that, Dave Portnoy is a Ivy League educated person, and Kirk Minihane, these are people who have education, and they could do a Google search of Colin Kaepernick in 5 seconds and learn pretty quickly that not only was he an NFL superstar, but was born in the United States, raised by 2 white middle-class parents in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and then later New York. This is maybe not New York. This is not hard to discover. So the privilege is the white privilege, and the nuanced white supremacy, some would argue, is that this idea that because there's a thought in Kirk Minihane's mind or Dave Portnoy's mind that somehow, and it's about a black person, somehow their instinct takes precedence over the facts, and they don't feel the obligation to even discover the facts. They just think if they believe it, it's got to be worth talking about. And, the privileges Kirk saying about Liz Gonzalez, she's so boring. He can't believe that Barstool has a podcast of somebody like that. The fact that she would draw a line in the sand as to what's funny and what's not funny. The line is drawn at, children being separated from their parents. That's not funny at all to her, and probably because of her Mexican heritage and her belief and knowledge that there are, in fact, children being separated from their parents, and that can happen because of their status. And Kirk's disrespect for her perspective, her is in part because of his privilege, because he can't imagine the government or the state separating him from his kids, because it's unlikely to happen. Just like it's unlikely to happen for him to get arrested for being, kind of crazy, wandering around making threatening gestures and noises at people. It's a privilege to not know the reality of that threat, and Kirk can't understand it, and he won't understand it. And he now kind of is weaponizing that privilege with Dave to fight back and to try to reserve this little area of the universe that makes it brave to say offensive things. But I guess the funny thing, right, if you're trying to see something that's kind of funny in a way, is that when Dave made the offensive remarks, when he and KFC and Big Cat were on that video, and KFC with his comment, those people, if they're going to live in this country, they should respect it. Colin Kaepernick is, if he's going to live in the country, where else would he live? But anyway, in that video, Dave, I forgot where I was going with that. Oh, in the video, Dave justified what he said, right? He used the N-word repeatedly in singing a rap song, and that I'm going to get to that in a minute. He used the N-word in the rap song, and then he also made the, just incredibly stereotype comments about Colin Kaepernick and Arabs and mistaking black people for Arabs, and if you're Arabic, you've got to be a terrorist because of your skin. I mean, it was almost like every checklist of every kind of bigoted type statement. But Dave justified it by saying, well, we're trying to be funny, right? That Barstool Sports is about being funny and entertaining people and giving people a safe space, away from the news, just a place to go and escape. So he could say racist things because they were funny. And Kirk Minihane's show, at least recently, is not funny at all. I mean, is there anything funny about seeing, like, sort of this angry person unravel before your eyes? I mean, and seeing these, like, poor young people, like, getting, whatever, taken for a ride by this kind of, I don't know, shock jock who has serious issues. I mean, it's really not funny. And yet he gets to keep his job. So, like, it's another example of, like, if you're mediocre and you're white and, and you just want to say offensive things, whether they're funny or not, you get to do it. But Kirk thinks that Barstool should not be a place for people, like Willie and Black Brandon and Liz and Gina. I mean, my God. Bore, no fun club, I think he said, if, this is a comedy site, if you don't like it here, you can leave. Yeah, that's kind of funny. So there is a nuanced case to be made that there's a little white supremacy at Barstool in the attitudes because, the guy at the top sort of thinks that boundaries are there to be broken by him when, it's pretty obvious that he doesn't even see the boundaries. Like, he's not aware of it, and he doesn't want to be aware of the boundaries. But I do have a challenge to you, Willie Colon and others who have spoke, especially on the Two Bigs podcast. I loved that, and that is this for the stoolie who's doing the best they can to show up, for black people. We're reading my favorite columnists. I got Leonard Pitts, Riley, Michelle Martin, my journalists. I'm reading Alice Walker. I'm looking up my history on the Mount Rushmore of black figures. Malcolm X, Frederick Douglass, Tubman. I mean, I'm trying to answer a lot of the questions that I have, but there's one question that I need help understanding, and that is when it comes to the N-word, why black people use it. What I want to understand more, what the redeeming value of the word is, if there is one. I mean, if there isn't a redeeming value of the word, it seems to me it shouldn't be said so often. If there is a redeeming value, I want to understand what it is, because if it's about power, if by saying it somehow it's powerful, I want to understand that. I want to understand what is the redeeming value of the word, and what are the rules around who should be able to say it. Because if in fact, it reminds me of a painting by Harry Wilson Watrous in the early 1900s. And he was a privileged guy, but the painting is very interesting. It's, I think, one of the first paintings of an interracial family. And it was painted, I think, in the early 19th century, and it's called The Drop Sinister, What Shall We Do With It? And it referred to the belief and the law, in fact, I think, at the time, that if you had just one drop of, Negro blood, then you were considered to be a Negro, that, as the term was used then, now black. And so, if there's redeeming value to the N-word and some people can say it, then how are we to judge who is entitled to say it? And under what circumstances. I think we need to have that conversation, and I look forward to having it with you. So, lots to think about, and lots to work on. And I'm happy to do it here with you, Smugsy, the ex-token intellectual of the Kirk Minihane Show, now identifying as the Barstool Cougar. Hope you'll subscribe to the show. And until next time, this is Smugsy signing off.